to our concert. We're so excited to present some jazz music from the great jazz era, and in conjunction with the great Gatsby 100 class, which are all down here in the front. And that class is taught by Dr. Tricia Stubblefield. And it was her idea to kind of have a joint project, and I'm just thrilled to be doing it. Go ahead and wave at it. So we will begin with our first piece. In Alabama, and I really thought about changing the word to Montgomery because I had the privilege of going with the great Gatsby class to Montgomery in the end of October maybe, and we got to spend the night in the home that F. Scott and Zelda lived in for a year while they were in Montgomery. Zelda was from Montgomery. And it was just so cool to be able to say we stayed there. And we went to the museum, and the woman gave us a fantastic tour. It was one of those where you're thrilled, but you're a little exhausted at the end of it, you know. Anyway, so that was just a wonderful time. And we also took in the sites, as many as we could, of the civil rights sites that are in Montgomery. Fantastic museums, and my favorite was the bus. What's that called? The Freedom Riders. Yeah, it's in the museum is in the old bus station where a lot of those riots happened and etc. So it was just fantastic. Okay, this next song is dedicated to my husband because he loves Sweet Georgia Brown. And I kept telling the students that, look, there is Heidi. Is that Heidi? Oh my God, it's Heidi! God, you should be up here singing with us. Heidi just graduated, was it 2 years or 1 year ago?
2 years.
2 years ago. And she sang alto with this choir for 4 years? 2 years? Anyway. And it seemed like 4 because you were so awesome. Anyway, dedicating this to my husband is his favorite, and you need to go listen after the concert. You need to go look up on YouTube. Is her name Anita O'Day, honey?
Yes.
Anita O'Day. And she's singing at the Montgomery? No. What was the festival, Keith? On the northeast coast somewhere?
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, I can't think of, if I could say it, y'all would go, oh yeah. And it's great because it was in the 50s, and all these people are sitting on the lawn drinking cigarettes and drinking their cocktails, and it's rumored that she was high on drugs when she sang it. And I don't know what's true, but it's an amazing performance. So, Sweet Georgia Brown, Anita O'Day. Go look it up. And now here's our version of Sweet Georgia Brown. Wasn't that fun? All right, and now we're delighted to hear from, so sorry. Okay.
As Kurt Kernet once said, quote, "The 1920s are remembered as a time of innocent indulgence, when prosperity appeared limitless, and impulses had no consequences, and irresponsibility was a birthright," end quote. By the end of World War I, the world had changed. Although the United States emerged less scarred than Europe, it entered a new cultural and economic chapter. Scott Fitzgerald famously dubbed the decade the, quote, "Jazz Age," portraying it as a period of youthful rebellion, theatrical excess, and personal escape, which included lavish parties, dazzling costumes, and unrestricted dancing. Yet this romanticization misrepresents the era's broader realities: economic inequality, racial violence, and the looming instability that would result in the Great Depression. The stereotype of nonstop partying in speakeasies, dancing the Charleston, and sipping bootleg liquor from fancy flasks was far from universal. As one historian points out, most Americans had never even heard of speakeasies or cocktail hours. Still, everyday people didn't hesitate to break prohibition laws, fueling a booming underground alcohol trade, from local shopkeepers quietly selling homemade gin to major crime figures like Al Capone building large illegal operations. The era was also marked by a transformation in fashion driven by consumerism and youth culture. Ready-to-wear clothing made stylish dress more accessible, signaling a new era of personal expression, characterized by exquisite beadwork and beautiful colors. As Scott Fitzgerald describes, women wore, quote, gas blue evening gowns and lavender beads. The men wore white flannels, and even the chauffeur wore a uniform of robin's egg blue. However, fashion also reinforced class divides. The elite looked down on the new moneys, clinging to old money ideals by portraying themselves as traditional nobility. The 1920s also saw the emergence of a new type of woman. The, quote, new women of the 1920s wasn't just one type of person. She came in many forms. She could be a flapper dancing in jazz clubs, a student at university, a writer, or a worker in an office. What united them was a desire to break free from the traditional rules about how women should look, act, and live. She wore shorter skirts, bobbed her hair, and stepped into public life with confidence. This shift sparked mixed reactions. Some people admired her independence, while others feared she was changing too much too fast. But no matter the reaction, the new woman made it clear. Women wanted more choices, more visibility, and more control over their lives. At the same time, for many other Americans, the decade was defined by leisure and indulgence, where dancing and socializing replaced discipline and self-improvement. As Scott Fitzgerald wrote, the jazz age, quote, ended 2 years ago because the utter confidence, which was its essential prop, received an enormous jolt, and it didn't take long for the flimsy structure to settle earthward. But moralizing is easy now, and it was pleasant to be in one's 20s in such a certain and unworried time.
To acknowledge the soloist in that last piece. First was Daisy, second was Jamie, and third was Grace.
In The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald famously writes, quote, "Can't repeat the past? Why, of course you can," unquote. This line mirrors the way in which Fitzgerald breathes new life into his personal history by using his past experiences as inspiration for his writing. Scott was born September 24, 1896, in St. Paul, Minnesota, to a middle-class family just as the Gilded Age was ending. Even in his early life, he was passionate about writing and wasn't as fond of academics. In 1913, he enrolled in Princeton University, and while he failed to make the football team, he was a poor student academically. He found himself heavily involved in Princeton's theater group, the Triangle Club. It was here that he began writing lyrics and scripts for some of the group's productions, and it was clear he looked back fondly on some of his experiences. In 1917, however, he dropped out of college, joined the Army during World War I, and was stationed in Montgomery, Alabama, where he would meet Zelda Sayre, his future wife. Much of his writing was based on his own experiences as a point of inspiration. His very successful first novel, This Side of Paradise, published in 1920, drew from his experiences at Princeton and made him an instant celebrity. The Great Gatsby is the novel that Scott is most well known for in our day and age through its depiction of life during the 1920s and the American dream. The novel centers around the story of Jay Gatsby, a self-made millionaire with a dubious past who longs to gain the affections of his former male-married lover, Daisy Buchanan. Told from the perspective of Nick Carraway, a bond salesman who has just moved to West Egg and neighbor to Gatsby, Nick narrates the tragic story surrounding this two as Gatsby attempts to win Daisy back. In the end, Gatsby fails and Nick moves back to the Midwest, reflecting on the corruption of the American dream that had doomed Gatsby's continuous pursuit of Daisy. During Fitzgerald's life, 23,000 copies were printed and sales were slow. The reviews he received for Gatsby, while mixed, were primarily negative. A lot of the commenters criticized elements pertaining to the novel's morals, use of slang, supposed unoriginality, and lack of depth. There were many who felt that the novel simply served as a representation of his own life. Much of the positive criticism he received praised his brilliant and beautiful writing style. It wasn't until after his death in 1940, at the age of 44, that The Great Gatsby gained popularity and was considered one of the greatest American novels ever written. Its depiction of wealth, corruption, the dangers of living in the past, the failing of the American dream, and various other timeless themes have made the novel relevant to this day. Fitzgerald's critique of America is summed up early in his novel by one of his characters, Daisy Buchanan. She tells us that, quote, "And I hope she'll be a fool. That's the best thing a girl can be in this world, a beautiful little fool," unquote. Her statement, while cynical, does well to reflect the empty promise that makes up the American dream.
The next piece that we're going to perform, Young and Beautiful, is not a piece from the 1920s. It is from 2008, when the movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio of The Great Gatsby was aired, and this is one of the songs that was used. I think it was maybe, I don't know, never mind. So this is a little break with tradition.
I've seen the world 1922 review of her husband's novel, The Beautiful and the Damned, Zelda Fitzgerald wrote, quote, "In fact, Mr. Fitzgerald, I believe that is how he spells his name. He seems to believe plagiarism begins at home," end quote. The controversial nature of their working relationship has followed her, though many argue that this quote was meant to stir up attention for the novel. But who was this woman who is often thought of as a, quote, original flapper? Zelda Fitzgerald was born in Montgomery, Alabama on July 24, 1900, the youngest daughter of a respected judge. Often called a, quote, party girl, she filled her time with ballet lessons, parties, and gossip. She met F. Scott Fitzgerald at a Montgomery Country Club dance in 1918 when he was stationed there during the war. 1 week after Scott published his first novel, This Side of Paradise, in 1920, they were married. The couple moved into the Biltmore Hotel in New York City. During this period, the newlywed couple became national celebrities, and then the next year, in 1921, Zelda gave birth to the couple's only child, Scotty Fitzgerald. They then moved to the French Riviera to give Scott more time and space to work on The Great Gatsby. This period was marked by marital disputes, and Zelda had a short flirtation with another man. Zelda also used this time to return to her ballet dancing. She studied with a renowned Russian ballerina and was offered a place in the San Carlo Opera Ballet Company in Naples. Unfortunately, Zelda experienced a mental breakdown and was placed in an asylum in 1910. She would spend the rest of her life in a series of hospitals and asylums that ranged in levels of freedoms that were allowed to her. While in one of these places, Zelda began to paint and explore her artistic talents, and during a 6-week period in 1932, she wrote and published her novel, Save Me the Waltz. This story was largely autobiographical. It follows a Southern woman and her relationship with a lieutenant-turned-painter. The main character throws herself into her dancing, hoping for independence and purpose, but the effort brings strain and emotional distance in her marriage. Zelda sent the novel to Scott's editor before sending it to him, and Scott adamantly attempted to prevent its publication, due to its fears for his reputation, since the novel heavily drew on their lives together, albeit from Zelda's perspective. Despite Scott's reservations, the novel was published with minimal editing, and the numerous typos within the book drew attention. At its release, it sold around 1,400 copies. The book's ambiguous ending finds the two main characters, largely based on Zelda and Scott themselves, simply sitting and being with each other. It's after a party, and all the guests had left. Despite the strife that the novel portrays, it ends with this passage that nods to the end of The Great Gatsby. Quote, "They sat in the pleasant bloom of late afternoon, staring at each other through the remains of the party, the silver glasses, the silver tray, the traces of many perfumes. They sat together watching the twilight flow through the calm living room that they were leaving, like the clear, cold current of a trout stream." End quote. Zelda Fitzgerald passed away on March 10, 1948, at 47 years old, after a fire broke out in the hospital where she was staying.
true Fitzgerald fashion, Scott once said, quote, "An author ought to write for the youth of his generation, the critics of the next, and the schoolmasters of ever afterward," end quote. Reflective of this quotation, The Great Gatsby is often considered to be, by many critics, the great American novel, leading to ongoing debate about whether Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby is a novel that glamorizes the Roaring Twenties or instead critiques them. With a boosted economy allowing a great increase in wealth among the upper middle class during the Jazz Age, it seemed impossible not to find ecstasy in the social world. However, The Great Gatsby, published in the midst of American greatness in 1925, was actually not widely received as the great American novel we now know it to be. Sales of The Great Gatsby were incredibly disappointing for Fitzgerald. However, by the 1940s, critical reception of the novel drastically changed due to a 1945 publication of a scholarly essay praising the supposed shortcomings or neglected merits others had previously critiqued. This new analysis of Gatsby's character as a realization of these themes was beginning to reveal a tension between the American dream and the power to materialize it. A morally corrupted novel, or not, the beautiful prose and delicately chosen language enhances the appeal for a new generation of reader. Following this critical turnaround in 1948, faculty at Princeton began teaching Fitzgerald's works, including The Great Gatsby. Critics began to realize that the perceived flaws seen in the novel were a true representation of the instability of America. A standard text in classrooms since the mid-20th century, students are able to look back into an American history and make connections between the Jazz Age, the characters' choices, and the tragic ending of the novel. In reading Fitzgerald's critique of the American dream, we gain an understanding that the American dream is not one shared tangible goal, and rarely are all goals achieved. Yet, as readers, we must keep a persevering spirit as we consider the novel's commentary on gender, race, and class, on the violent aspects of American history, on our need to dream, and on our capacity to transform the world. In Nisar Nafisi's 2003 memoir, Reading Lolita in Tehran, she encourages her university students in Iran to analyze Western texts, including The Great Gatsby. She offers the final piece of advice for handling the text, adding to the reverence we offer the novel and allowing The Great Gatsby a central place in our culture. Quote, "If you don't enter that world, hold your breath with the characters, and become involved in their destiny, you won't be able to empathize, and empathy is at the heart of the novel." This is how you read a novel. You inhale the experience, so start breathing, end quote. We invite you to inhale the famous last lines of this great American novel whose centennial we celebrate tonight. Gatsby believed in the green light.
The orgastic future that year by year recedes before us.
It eluded us then, but that's no matter.
Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms further.
And one fine morning, so we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past.
Thank you, and thank you all. You added great richness and thought to our concert. Thank you. Oh, I want to say something about Blue Skies. So Blue Skies has always been one of my favorite tunes, and so I picked it just without thinking. And in rehearsal earlier this week, I said something about, actually I don't remember what my comment was, but the student said, you know, I think the person has died, and they're seeing blue skies in heaven and birds, and I thought, wow, that's kind of profound. So we're purposefully trying to sound like angels when we sing them. I know we sound like angels anyway, but. And also, this is what I call a warm fuzzy at the end of the concert. Sometimes at the end of the concert, you do a wow pow, you know, something to get people going. This is warm fuzzy.